Give me a minute. Okay.
This meeting of the Ocean Highway and Port Authority, July 8, 2026 is now called to order. If you would stand with me, and the invocation will be led by Commissioner Cole, followed by the pledge led by Commissioner Hill.
Our gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we do thank you for our many, many blessings. We thank you for this great country that we live in. We thank you for our leaders, Lord. Pray that you would give them wisdom and discernment, that you would help them to make the right decision to keep our country free and safe. We pray, Lord, too, that you would be with all of our leaders in the state and local levels, that you would help them to make the right decisions that they should be making. Meet with us tonight, Lord. We ask that you give us the wisdom that we need to take care of the business for the Ocean Highway Port Authority. Pray for our first responders, wherever they may be, that you watch over and keep them safe. Lord, we just thank you for all that you do. And I'd like to say a prayer for the family of Miss Jackie Osborne, that you would help them in this terrible time. We thank you for all that you do for us. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
You show me the pledge? I don't like you would do flag.
Flag of the United States and for the republic which stands one nation and all indivisible with liberty and for all.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so I can elaborate. Miss Jackie Osborne was a state committee woman, and she had been a big part of the Republican Party in Nassau County for years, and a really strong advocate for animal control and such. And it came quick, 2 weeks, and she's gone. So, well,
We continue to remember her family prayer. Representative, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Cole.
Here.
Commissioner Taylor.
Here.
Secretary Treasurer Hill.
Here.
Vice Chair Moore.
I am here.
Chair Nelson.
Here.
And Mrs. Bach is on call.
Hello. Hello. All right, let me welcome those that are here tonight. Thanks for coming out, taking your time to join us here at our board meeting. As we get started, see, we have no public comments, so we're going to move straight on into the approval of the minutes for June the 10th. We have a motion to approve as is.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written. Recommended changes.
That second.
I'll second.
That second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, we'll move right into our attorney's report.
Good evening, everybody. And in June, I worked on we finalized, as you see tonight, the Crane 10 refurbishment contracts. We had the 3 contractors to finalize the agreements with. And I'm working with Ted to go over some of the general invoicing that I've done that we think may need to be reimbursed by the operator, but I'm going through that with Ted, and I expect to have that done by the end of the week.
Okay. Any questions on that?
No. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions on that? All right, let's move forward to the financial report here.
So you have the treasurer's report, we distributed to you. Apologies because of the holiday, obviously, timing, so we didn't get that out in the package, but there's really nothing unusual this month, other than we did have 2 payrolls processed, and that's just a timing thing as far as the holidays like that, getting the payroll out. So other than that, pretty standard, just our regular standard bills, the rent, the commissioner salaries, and the office administrator salaries and things like that. So nothing unusual. And then on page 2, you have the balances, the accounts, as always, so again, nothing unusual. And the infrastructure fee today, so we're 32,000 today with 3 months to go. Obviously, Ted already pledged to make up any difference, so but we continue to follow that. And obviously the facility use fee, you can see the year-to-date amount. That's all I have.
Any questions, Commissioner? All right. Let's move on to the board operators report, tonnage and facility.
Okay, pretty straightforward here. Another bounce back month. Good healthy month of port. Wood pulp was strong. Containers back pretty leveled off. Good month for some resolve. Now I would say overall, our efforts here, you can look back over the trends. It's kind of an up down, up down. What I told my team is we really need to work towards leveling that off. We don't have these dips, these peaks and valleys. And just rest assured we are putting forth all of our effort to do so. So any questions?
Summers Isle, have they given you any indication of what their projections are for the days just in a couple months? Because they're gonna start probably September running for Thanksgiving. So I was just wondering if you're expecting an increase during that period.
I have not received any indication yet. I will reach out to Teddy and Robin tomorrow. What I saw last year in my first year here was it really declined from November into December. It kind of started moving back up in January. But what I will do is I will double check that with, like I said, with them and get back to you very quickly.
I'd just be curious because I'm looking at your graph here and, it is a little bit of a bumpy ride there. I would be curious to see what they come back and say, because I know that the suppliers and the consumers have already started giving some indication to them of what their fall is going to look like.
I can tell you with conversations that I have had, they're rebuilding a bridge in Bermuda. There's a lot of sewer pipe heading over there. I mean, as far as 80-foot, 85-foot pipe that we're loading on 20-foot flat racks, which was my stevedore brain. The math doesn't work just right, but we had an extra lashing on it. Did good. That happened a couple of months ago. Second phase of that's happening now. So I do see a lot additional break bulk coming in the next month or so, just from conversations. I don't have any forecast on that just yet. So I'm curious as well, but I will follow up on that.
Chairman, I will add, we took their team to breakfast and probably had 1 hour and a half long chat. They're happy with the way things are going, and they're extremely pleased to hear, the prospective news on the crane. And that we're getting the mobile harbor crane back up to smell, because again, these long sections of steel and infrastructure, it don't go to carrier to Jersey. A lot of it's made in the southeast, and so it naturally flows here. And the limitations, they're a little ship, and so we've got to have that mobile harbor crane running. It's just tricky to get it through the container legs of the crane mountain.
Yeah, just for everybody else in the room, the crane legs are 55-foot wide. You're loading 80-foot pipe. You got to spin it somehow. So the mobile harbor crane comes into key there, and also it has a huge triangle slide on it, which allows the bar to stay level. So I mean, yeah, the mobile harbor crane is going to be vital in the next months to come.
Not to change the subject, but while you're on the mobile harbor, is it progressing?
Yes.
The last couple of times I were out there, there was nobody around it, so I took it that it was back in operation.
You wanna take this?
Yeah, I got it. It's been down for the count for a good bit of time now. The main generator on the mobile harbor crane went out. We tried renting one and hardwiring it in. That did not work out. We ended up going with West Side Electric. I got a email from them this morning that we get that generator, the refurbished generator, back on Tuesday. Chris Black says he needs a full solid day to put it back in. Even though next week is a Summers Isle vessel. I mean,
We don't have any high wide heavy on the load back this week, so we should.
right,
As long as Crane 9 is not temperamental, we should be fine.
yeah,
But
but
then the voids after when the big stuff gonna start. We got a big silo we gotta load out.
it's a very large silo. Yes, easy to handle with the container crane. It's not too long, but I mean, it's wide, the wires, we can knock it out. Would rather have a little bit more, elbow room if we needed a mobile harbor crane. Right now, we can't load that with crane 9, but the next voyage, we should be up and running or have the mobile harbor crane solid as number 2.
That's good news. I know that when I was out there and I did get a chance to talk to Eddie White, he was pleased with the way that the terminal was responding to some of the issues, with the crane and how they were compensating for it. You were actually pulled up there while Teddy and I were talking. So, but as long as we can keep them moving in a positive, because if they get behind, y'all know what happens. They get kicked out by the other northern vessels. So, okay, that hopefully we can get this done and taken care of. Sir, any other questions, commissioners?
Oh, I just had a question about like the total variance. Are we expecting to meet our tonnage year or? It's hard for me to track, like. Cause we aren't fully through the year. So is that the variance year to date? Is that prorated variance or is that for the full year?
You mean the port infrastructure fee?
I'm looking at what's on the screen. Wait, she just moved it.
Your tonnage variance.
Yeah, there you go. So are we gonna catch up or are we gonna close out down compared to last year?
So I'm gonna half full and say we'll catch up. But you know, TBD. I mean, a lot of this depends on tariffs, markets. You know, a lot of it depends on wood pulp. You know, it ties back to the economy, ties back to consumer goods, demand. You know, the tariffs, it's just unfortunate because, you know, we got some relief on the tariff issue and then we got high fuel prices, right? Now we got consumer sentiments down, spending a little. But you know, a lot of our, and that's why we're trying to diversify right now, because we're heavily dependent on wood pulp, which goes into paper and products, medical products, that sort of thing. So I'm sorry to say, I don't know. I'm hopeful, but that's the best answer I can give you.
If I may, just for me, you know, we're working our third G2 vessel, next week, bigger vessels, better cranes, more volume. Last month we had 11,600 metric tons of wood pulp alone, not lumber or, wood, or KLP. This ship here is around 10,000. Also, the Saga ship, the Saga ship is in July. We normally run about 7,000 metric tons. This one's got 11,000 metric tons of wood pulp. So what I'm hopeful, like Ted said, but these past couple months are showing signs of beat up.
I mean, now in the news, they're already talking fuel costs again, just like you mentioned. They start shooting again over there and the fuel price goes up. I talked to a guy yesterday that works one of the fuel racks. And he says it's like a man jumping on a pogo stick. It's down, it's up, down, it's up. You know, and their prices change every time they get a signal that the fuel is changing. They go ahead and increase their prices. So not good, but
So. It seems like overall volumes are up for Florida ports and for Southeastern ports, but Bernardino is not up. Like we are up and down.
So can I see the
So I
data
just
you're
want to
referencing?
sharpen that, but to like understand, because, well, I don't, I mean, I hear constant reports, when I hear for Jacksonville. It's up, when I hear from, Florida Ports Council reports, when you just look online, you can find information about other ports. And they have lots of volume. So is it more that like the type, like that we're so specialized and we have such a small list of customers that somehow we're experiencing a different, phenomenon? Because like when I hear tariffs, that's affecting all border ports, like it's affecting all US ports. And that, to me, it doesn't quite put a point on the issue, which is that we are truly diversified in Port Fernandina at all. Right. So it's always gonna look that way. You lose one customer, you lose half the business. Right?
I would say half business, and I'd have to reference the data you're looking at. So you say other ports are up. Most ports in the United States overall are heavily tied to containers or rotary, right? Jacksonville in particular, Tampa in particular, especially Miami. And then you have other ports that are, if they're not heavily tied to containers, they also have cruise revenue, right? Which is totally different metric. But I can tell you when I was at Port of Charleston, we always looped everything in. So we had a formula that headcounts for cruise were converted over to show that when reporting out, hey, here's how the port's doing. I would say that the Port of Fernandina Beach is very specialized. We're very niche. But I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm where we want to be. Like I'm fighting like hell to get us to the next level, which is diversification, which is more vessel calls, which is higher paying cargo. That's my goal of today. What that's not good enough. I can tell you that. And words are just words, but that's our goal is to try to build this forward.
I saw that version E is moving on to the International Port International. Yeah. She is just so dynamic and engaging. Every event that she would come to, like she went above and beyond to stay late, talk to people. And when she talked about the business of the port and intermodal business, for Relay, she made it interesting to everyone. Like everybody, was drawn in, excited about business, which I think I think it is interesting. But to the broader audiences, I think she was able to make it interesting to everyone. And so she really will be missed.
She is going to be missed. I would say, for Virginia, she has family in Boynton Beach. I have like 100 beaches here, so I never know where, but it's down there. And she always wanted to get closer to her family. And when this opportunity came up, we talked, and it was a great opportunity for her. And I can't fault her for taking it. But I'll say I do have a recruiter already engaged to try to get top-notch talent to backfill.
Yeah, I just saw her post today. I didn't have the chance yet to reach out, but
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she
She is missed, and it's everybody has their own pathway, and I'm proud of what she did here, and I think she'll be great down there.
Okay, any further questions on the tonnage of the facility? All right, facilities repair report, Travis, do you have any updates on any of the things? I mean, I was out there just the other day. As I rode around, as I walked around, everything looks good. I was actually watching the operation on the rail dock there. It was pretty smooth. So if we can keep it up and keep them off the wall, I think we'll be way ahead of them. But everything did look good. I did mention to you about the one issue on Front Street there.
You address that?
Yeah, you good.
What was this?
A shrimp pot just needing a trimming.
Uh,
So we talked on today's Monday.
Money.
We had one of our guys out there yesterday. Did put a big dent in it. I was hoping to get it done today with the rail cars that we worked today. It's one of my guys that's cutting wires, taping and all that. We didn't get that done. It will be completely cleaned up by the end of the week. I'm a little torn right now if we go in, 'cause it's thick around the fence. Granted, I haven't monitored that, but do I bring a million lawn care in, knock that down, and then we maintain it from there? Just a couple small things but for the most part, it looks totally different. I just got to trim around the fences. So that, I mean, it hurt, and I got as soon as we walked away.
I appreciate that. I mean, I was out there and I heard some people that were walking and kind of riding around, and one of them made a comment, so I picked up on it. And that's why when you came up, I mentioned it to you.
And I appreciate that. And fault to myself, I don't go down Front Street. I just don't. It hadn't registered lately with the rain we've had, and keep maintaining it. So
Well, again, I was out there also when you had the ships operating, and I did see employees parking down there. So
yes, sir.
that too would help with that situation.
We had a KLB vessel and a Utex vessel. We had employees in that parking lot for both of them. So that's a total of 5 days in the last 2 weeks that we've been utilizing that lot.
Okay, yeah, whatever you can do to that will improve that drastically.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody have any questions? All right, on the new business, I know we've been kind of floating around there. Ted, is there anything you can share from your European trip? I mean, give us some kind of idea of where we're at.
Yeah, so, one of my main, goals in going to Europe was, Soder and SCA are two of our largest customers. It's, if you read the news, you'll see that there's further and further consolidation in the brake pulling space. Goal number one is to maintain those guys. They are really good customers. They're solid. It's in our wheelhouse, exactly what we're good at. I think that was mission accomplished. I met with both of them, spent a lot of time with them, like I said earlier. Ended up in Sweden at Soder's headquarters. I think it went a long ways. But also, as you may know, the carriers such as G2 Ocean, Saga, they've all got offices here, but everything happens over there. They're all headquartered there, all the decisions are made there, and there's always a guy or a couple of guys or girls that are really driving that. And so to sit down and talk to those big carriers was great. Also got to go over to a lot of these forwarders. They do a lot of these projects. Same thing. A lot of them are European based. They have Houston offices. So was able to go around, spend quality time with them, spread the good word. I made a point. I think I went. There was this conference has 10,000 people at it. So I beat the floor pretty hard. Feel really good. But also, one of the main things was I went to some of the Asian carriers, HMM, MYK. Some of these guys had literally never heard of me. Not because I don't think we've done a good job or the people in the past haven't done a good job, is that they have such turnover. So you got guys that are in their, or girls that are in their early 30s making decisions about how to route cargo. All they know is Houston, Tampa, Savannah, Baltimore, right? And you've got to get out there and plant the seeds. In fact, a guy with HMM, High Merchant Marine, emailed me back about a week ago and said, thank you. I sent him a full presentation. I think I sent probably 45 follow-up emails with the presentation about the port, how we do things, our advantages. And so, these are seeds you plant. Hopefully, you get one or two to sprout. But again, the main goal for me going over there was to maintain our current customer base based on. And, in today's age of video conferencing and emails and phone calls, and AI, still doesn't beat human interaction face to face. So we need more of that. Like I alluded to earlier, I've engaged a very expensive, recruiter to help me backfill this job. that hopefully will take a little bit of this off my plate, a little more, but right now, I'd say business development for Fernandina is one of my top goals.
Well, if, anybody has ever been in the maritime industry, it's one of the most competitive businesses. You can make it or break it overnight. So hopefully we can, with the, Ecuador KLB, we can get that back where it once was. Because we ran a lot of paper. So I understand there's been some changes there. And there's still some changes going on.
There's some changes going on. I'd say, back when y'all ran a lot of paper, containers weren't that competitive, and now they're very competitive. But as you know, some of those machines down there still use the jumbo rolls. And those jumbo rolls, you can only get about 3 in a container. They're so big. That's our big step up on competition.
Right.
We've really leaned into that. In fact, we are going direct to the middleman. So we've cut out these kind of weird middlemen. So now we're dealing directly with the mill down there. I think Travis and those guys, can compete with the best of them when it comes to loading those reefer ships. It's not easy, but that's the most economical way to get that KLV from here to there is backhauling on reefer ship. I've looked at all the different options because believe me, I'd love to drop stow that stuff, but it's just not there.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Rather than sending a ship with cargo in one empty position, it makes no sense. So, well, we'll just hope that we can continue to build that back first. Moving on to the maintenance report, that's the, maintenance, report that, Travis sent out. I know I've got a copy of it. I think everybody's got a copy of it. Travis, would you like to elaborate a little bit on that maintenance? Or whichever.
Yeah, so first of all, I went back and looked at what was presented before, and it was just like a kind of a very basic Excel sheet. So I thought it would be useful to put a little more narrative into it, put a little more time into it to kind of tell a story. So, before we jump into it, it's hard to, we have to talk all y'all together. You can't, because of sunshine law, but is this kind of what y'all want to see? Is this good? Is it too wordy? Is it too many numbers? Is it not wordy enough?
I think it's a good first shot. I like having the detail where you look back, what was done during FY26 for this, and then looking forward, what needs to be done as far as maintaining facilities, the hard structures, also the cranes and all that. I think that's great. Years as we go forward, if we get the same level of detail in the reports, then it will allow us to compare, what was done against previous years and maybe what we thought. I think this is a great first step. From this, we need to develop, what a maintenance plan is going to be as we move through this, as we look at the things that are on the list in section 4. Why 2027 projected asset expenses. We'll need to come up with a plan as we move through 2027. We want to program out repair, because obviously, in this budget, so effectively, for a number of these, you do 1 or 2 of them, and that effectively eats up the entire CIMR budget.
Yeah, and I would also say if we get more structure around this and other things, it allows us to be way more strategic when it comes to grants.
Right.
We've had, since I've started this job, we've always had mad scrambles about grants, right? We can be more strategic you know, we have better data, better decisions, and more, and in our applications.
Yeah.
Better, I mean, you know, it's FDOT grants, I mean, it was some long days of typing, and so if we can get ahead of the ball, I think this is a first step.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's a great first step. We'll need to continue on with it as far as prioritizing repairs. So we go through 2027 to make sure that, you know, we're doing the high impact items, the things that, and committing the CIN funds for that. But it also helps, you know, talking about grants, you know, as the FSTED representative, it helps me to have the information when I have to go look in the end of July, have to stand up and talk to each one of our grant submissions, specifically why we're requesting it, what the impact is, what the return on investment projection is. And this information helps me immeasurably in being prepared to move our grant application, or at least try to convince the rest of the FSTED council to fund our grant.
Yeah, that's why I put the PIDP funding I put in there just as an FYI, but to kind of remind everybody, you know, I think we'll win this next one, right? Let's have full. But out of that application process, we got a lot of good data, right? No one had been under that dock in a while. You know, no one had really said, okay, it floods a lot. What is a reasonable way to at least work towards mitigation, not fix it, because that's a really big project, but so.
Well, you know, the PIDP is, you know, that's like a home run, trying to get a home run. Hopefully we get it, you know, we won last year, but at least we have the information now, so that if we have to, you know, if we have to eat the elephant one bite at a time, we'll have some information on which to do smaller grant applications, you know, look at our CINMR fund and apply that to the most appropriate thing to continue on for progress.
I would like to say that the way that you've got this laid out has given this board more information. Just in glancing through what I've been able to get through, this is the kind of information that I used to give my boss. And what he done with it was his duties. But I mean, you got it where these commissioners can look at this and see exactly where we're at with the equipment. And I think that's a big stride from what it once was. I know when Travis and I started out there and we were talking about certain things, he looked at me like I was talking some foreign language because he didn't understand where I was coming from. But this here is a written record so that each one of these commissioners can review it and see what you spend in parts and service on different equipment items. You got it listed here, the fiscal 2026 detailed maintenance ledger. When's the last time y'all seen a maintenance ledger? Okay, this is what I'm saying. This gives us something that we can look at and go out there and look at the equipment and know something about it, what kind of shape it's in. So,
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, what was surprising to me was that information was always there in like a savage system, but no one had the context, right? And like, when I first started the job, I didn't have 16. And Travis, and so when you marry those two things together, this is what you get. But you gotta have the context. You can't just pull numbers. It's more than just a spreadsheet. You gotta there's a narrative that goes with it.
Gotta be clear, concise, and, you know, really just kind of dumb it down, you know, for third grade level, right? But no, I think I do agree. I think this is best that I've seen.
it is absolutely the most informative and most usable information. And it's just like I'm looking at the mobile harbor that had wheel and rim damage to it. I went out there and I actually saw that. Now I see it on here, so I can put the two together. I can see what it cost you. So it is a big deal. so that when we're asked, we can give a reasonable answer. But, yeah, I mean, this is facility and maintenance from what I'm seeing here, so it's actually useful information, in my opinion. Commissioners will have to make up their own mind.
What I was shown before was a cardboard box with folders, dirty rags, sleeves, and parts, and that was. If you want to go through. It's the way it was told.
You know, I also think that it helps, as we go through our property tax issues. One of the concerns was that the commissioners aren't aware or involved enough in the day-to-day operations and maintenance. We have basically given complete control over to the operator. This help, things like this, not this by itself, but things like this help, give us something that we can go to, during these disputes. With the property appraiser, with things like that, to say, yes, we are. We have not given complete control. We are involved. We are looking. We are concerned. I think it furthers our cause. Maybe it won't win our cause, but at least gives us,
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's appreciated. I mean, I'm continually looking at it here, and, I mean, just the parts cost on some of this stuff is out of sight, so. Thank you for supplying that to us, and, any further questions on that? All right, let's move down to the old business. The fabric warehouse, permit, any updates?
I think one was sent out today, and I'll let Travis.
Yes, I doubt that you've had time to look at it. From Ladson Construction, I did go ahead and send to Rosanna, but we are currently now under contract with Ladson Construction. Ladson has also issued out contracts with the civil engineers and the professional services firm handling the geotechnical testing. So basically, all that to say, come Monday, we're gonna have surveying going on. They're gonna come out and it's scheduled for this Monday, the 13th, survey the property. And also we're gonna have geotechnical testing, which means I in our early conversations or before we got in with Coker or with Ladson, I was getting quotes for the civil work, taking up the pavers, and how deep do we go with the asphalt? I got 8 inches, I got 12 inches, I got 2 inches. I did not know. So talking with Ladson, I said, is there any way to this current asphalt slab, how deep is it? Can we do a core sample? And he took the ball and ran with it. And now he's also taken the doing samples in the ground where we're going to put the building, going 6 foot deep to see what else is down there. With that being said, we're currently I need to get all those in place. That starting next week, so we will have this the scheduled surveying is Monday. Also, the geotesting is going to happen next week too. Once those two are done, we have a firm, we can then have a definitive timeline. With that being said, in conversations with Ladson Construction, he is hoping, and we both feel the same way, that the civil design will be done in the next 3 weeks. And the goal is trying to get into permitting in the next 4 to 5. I know this is a update that y'all probably hadn't had a good chance to look at, but we will still continue to give these, and hopefully in next week we'll have a better timeline to get better suited towards that. But that's where I'm at right now. I mean, any questions, anything that I could?
Well, I just want to jump in. We will be supplying when we see y'all weekly updates that will continue, right?
Oh, absolutely. You'll get one once a week. It just came early this week. I was going to try, and there was a whole conversation between myself and Ted and Rosanna. I was trying to do a Dropbox just for everybody's information, just so all the information was there. If you want to look at it at any given time, I have a file on my desktop, and I will send anything that didn't go out, but it'll just be current emails, weekly emails coming out with what he sends us. So yes, you will continue to get those weekly updates.
Any questions? All right, go down to 11B on crane number 9, fund request. This is for the repair of the power cord on the number 9 crane. There's been a request for $24,003 and some change. We need to address this. That you had a 57 926 49 or something. What's that total cost there on that one? Yeah, 39.
I think the 57 is the maintenance, the balance in the maintenance account.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna need to revisit that because we did have a motion and it passed that we would not use any money from that fund for anything other than the maintenance strategy. So we need to get this one taken care of. I did go through and look at the billing on this, the invoices. They looked in line with me. Did any other commissioner get a chance to look at those?
I'll just add a note. I mean, you know, I always look for deals. I always try to get the lowest bid and the best value. This was not one of those situations. We were down hard. At that point, the mobile harbor crane was also on the fritz, was not working well. And so Travis looked at me and said, what do I do? These guys have it stock and they can get the guys on the plane here in 2 days. I said, just do it, because the last thing I wanted was for us to, our guys couldn't do it. Chris Black said, it's a hair over what I can handle myself. I just don't feel comfortable that I can deliver. I would hate to get out there, get the cord overnighted, get in there, and I can't figure it out. And then we're down hard. Then it's another truck crane we have to bring in. Not only is that a huge expense, but Summersall hates it. It's slow as slangers. So that's kind of why we had to go with the vendor that had everything, not only the part, but the technicians that could literally fly in 2 days.
Well, I mean, it was complete. You had plane tickets, you had hotel rooms, you showed the full expenses of what you went through. And as you said, when you're in that situation, you have no choice. You can try to put it off, but going to a mobile crane from Jacksonville and all of that, it's not gonna work real well for you. So commissioners, we need to have a motion that we take the $24,000 out of the maintenance fund and reimburse the operator for this. The fund stands at 57,926.47. So there is money that can be used to cover this. It's not something that we like to do or want to do, but in this case, we have to do the right thing.
I'll make a motion.
You make the motion before I said. Right.
I'll make a motion.
No, I'm sorry.
For, reimburse $21,003.70
From the main.
for the maintenance.
Okay, and I had a second from Mr. Cole. Okay. We're open for discussion.
Ted, what was the total bill on it?
39.
Okay, 39. Relay is paying their 15,000.
Well, we paid the whole bill.
Yeah, understood. Okay. Rosanna, didn't we pass a motion on this several months ago?
So if I may ask, Mrs. Bach,
Okay.
Mrs. Bach, do we have to amend the resolution that was passed? The CIM,
Yeah, but you can do it by voice tonight because it's not on there, right? Is that what you mean? To bring it back?
It is attached to the meeting
Okay.
packet.
Yeah, you do have to vote to amend or amend the resolution, yeah.
Okay, so it would be, Tammy, this is Commissioner Moore. So it would be, need to be two motions, a motion to amend the original resolution. And then a motion to spend the $24,003.70. Or can it be done in one
Yeah.
motion?
It can be done in one motion. You can approve and agree to expend that amount.
Okay.
So, Chairman, I just had a question. So, or rather an observation. And we have the CIMR funds and they are designed to, build. And if they build to the point of $1 million balance, then the way we split the fees as between OHPA and operator changes, right? Once we get to that $1 million. And what I've observed in my time as a commissioner, good or bad, is that as soon as there's any funds in that account, they are requested for projects. And I mean, almost always the projects are very critical, like this, I definitely think this repair should be done. And overall, the port is in need of many repairs. And so all of the necessary and prudent repairs should be conducted. But what I feel we lack is just a disciplined plan to say, these are the scheduled items. This is how they're gonna be paid out of the revenue of the port. And when emergencies occur, then those are the items that should come to the CIMR. But if the agreement is silent, it leaves it open for OHPA to come up with that policy on our own. But I just don't ever see us getting to $1 million in that account. And we are constantly faced with this, dilemma that we have to choose between projects that do need to, I mean, they do need to get done. But OHPA will never get to that amount unless we have some sort of discipline around our sharing of those expenses. And it does make sense that the operator would bear maintenance costs, capital maintenance costs, because they take all the revenue that are associated that derive from those assets. And they only pay us a fixed amount. And so there's no incentive for them to allocate any of that revenue to tankers, unless we hold them accountable and say that has to occur. As long as it can just be taken out of this account fully. So I'm just 1 of 5, but what I would like to see is that we have a bit more controls and planning, because obviously we want these repairs to occur, but the operator needs to be committing revenue regularly for all such repairs. They aren't unforeseeable. We all know the train needs significant.
That's a fundamental change to the agreement, right? These are OHPA assets. And Homeboy is responsible for that, right? And this agreement says the first $15,000 paid by the operators. And everything else is paid by OHPA. If those funds are available, the operator. That's the maintenance part of the agreement. These are OHPA assets maintained by OHPA. They don't for the long term. Yes, the port needs a lot of work. It's a 30-year-old port, it needs investments. New route, but that's again, the first responsibility is to maintain the port. That's what the revenue, the first, and so getting $1 million sitting there doing nothing when the port needs work would also be, to me, a travesty, right? Well, we're sitting on $1 million because we don't want to spend it because we want to get to where it's the maintenance fund is $1 million, and now we can spend it on whatever we want. When again, that's OHPA's, again, these are OHPA's assets.
So I read the operating agreement. I've always read that clause to mean that we would put money into the account until it reaches $1 million. And so that would be our directive and responsibility to put those funds into that account until such time as it reaches $1 million. So therefore, they would not be available So they would pay the first $15,000 until we got to the million, they wouldn't be available. That's always been my read of it. I've said that many times. You may not have the same interpretation, but I know that Patrick had a different interpretation of that term. Well, I'm not gonna ask Tammy to opine on it unless she, feels like she's comfortable opining on that clause. But that's always been the way I read that term. Would it be a fundamental change to the agreement? Perhaps it's different than the way it's been interpreted in the past, but I don't think that requires any amendment to the agreement. So just, I mean, I agree to disagree with you on that one. But going back to the dredging is OPA's responsibility. And previously we were told that the dredging had reached criticality. Is that no longer the case?
Well, I think if we kind of zoom out and look at what the business prospects are for, we do have an exciting new customer coming that is going to occupy the South Berth, which is where the shoaling is. As of now, I think North Berth, what's 700-800 feet is still at 38 feet.
That's making maintenance deferred.
Oh, it is.
So it obviously needs to be corrected. We have a customer that's going to be using the South Berth. That doesn't require the depth, but it's a 40-month worth in agreement. But that there is once he goes, that's the expense that we are going to have to incur. We need to take steps to make sure that we're in a position that if that customer vacates after 40 months, we're in a position to do that maintenance stretching to get it back to the depth that it needs to be.
Right.
Just with bugging.
It's 3 years, it's gonna be that kind of time frame before they get it, where they can. I had looked at it, you can see if we could get some help from other Washington, places, even trip through the man who did it before and see if he would do a one-time quickie and, give us verifies. I heard back from him yet, so.
I mean, I'm not telling y'all how to allocate where to put your chips with FDOT, but you're right, do have a kind of a runway here. We are addressing a lot of glaring items in the coming 2 years with FDOT, so you could go ahead and prioritize maintenance dredging as one of your big projects with the FDOT funding cycle. If you wanted to, I'll tell you what to do, but if it were me, that's what I would do. 28, 29, that would be one of my top projects. Once you get some of these other problems that really need to be fixed out, like the warehouse for the crane rail, some of these, the fencing, the lighting, that we are about to fix the crane and taking care of a lot of things. If it were me, I would put maintenance dredging on document.
Yeah, guys, and I'm certainly not opposed to this. But kind of how I see it, CINMR, really again, just be the way I interpret it. It's for, I don't want to say emergency repairs, but repairs that need to be done now. Longer term projects, where, the piece of machinery, the dock, whatever, isn't going to fall into the ocean. That's the grant process. You're attempting to get grants from FSTED, FDOT, federal government, or various grant providers, to address those big ticket. We're the CIMR is approximately $50,000. So that's now I've only been here for a few years, but I believe that's the highest it's ever been. you know, because we always need to dip into it, you know, because we haven't really had and, you know, certainly not, directly relays, you know, it's previous, management teams and previous companies that, have been the port operator. You know, there hasn't been an itemized accounting of all the facilities, all maintenance needs. Projecting forward to where we can look at it, you know, just like with the maintenance report that you guys just provided. We can now look at that and we can, you know, program or funding, program grant issues as we project forward. You know, look at the maintenance needs that you've identified. Is that an emergency need that needs to be done in the next 3 months? Yes, no. You know, can it wait for a grant cycle? Yes, no. You know, is it $1 million grant that's going to be necessary? Yes, no. You know, so we can make those decisions about which avenue we're going to go to try to fund those repairs. But, you know, this, you know, that said, you know, I believe that this is an exigent need. And, you know, I'm comfortable amending the resolution and funding this.
Well, looking back, I believe that the expenditures that we pulled money out of the maintenance for work cranes.
It's on both as well.
Yeah, and then, yeah, so I'm just saying that we've got this situation. And if you've ever been out there with a customer in your face, wanting to know what you're gonna do about that crane, you know what you gotta do. And just like you guys called it, hey, get them on a plane, get them here and get it done. I've been there, I've done that. You have no choice. It's either that or your business decides to go look somewhere else because they're not gonna lose their customers. That's a fact. So, if we want to take up this issue with locking this account down, I don't think that's wise because we are in volatile times right now. And there's not to say that tomorrow, when you go out there to that crane, something else is gonna go haywire. It could very well happen. We need to pay and reimburse this. Whatever money's in there is in there. When the discussion was going on, my thought is, well, this is what happens when you get a bad agreement. This is exactly what happens. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. Let's continue to move forward. We are moving forward. I've told several people, in the 4 years, I'm finally starting to see in the wheel turn. And, you know, you get a little bit anxious about it because you want it to go faster. But it takes big bucks to roll a marine. So, I'm gonna ask that we move forward with this, we reimburse the operator. And if we want to discuss this at another date, then if you want to lock it down, we'll lock it down. That's up to this board. But as of right now, in good faith, they stepped forward, got the crane fixed, got the vessel where they could work it, got it out. No further.
Just reiterate that, the crane repairs are very important. I think we should have redundancy with regard to cranes. I know the history about, sadly, Mr. Dudley perishing in a crane accident at the port and how tragic that was. And that's all due to the operator at the time making no meaningful repairs to any of the operating equipment out for a very long time. And this board, the members at the time turning a blind eye. So I'm not advocating for less maintenance. I am advocating for more accountability for maintenance. And I am intending to read meaning into the term of the agreement. And there is a term of the agreement that says that this fund should reach $1 million. And at such time as it reaches $1 million, that then we will proceed to disperse funds differently. And so because of my background, I read meaning into the words. And so that is the meaning I take from it. And so I think I think that to be fiscally responsible and to be pro-maintenance of the port, that's to hold the operator accountable for maintenance. And so I'm not voting in favor of dispersing these funds out of this account, because I think it's very important for this board to have readily available funds to deploy at such time when there are unforeseeable needs that we need to step up and take action. And we also would put ourselves in a better position as a board to be able to better control the revenues, which I think is also our obligation. I'm not voting against this because I do not believe in frame repairs. I believe in frame repairs. But that's where I stand. But thank you.
Anybody else?
So we're, right now, the funds are locked in. Per that resolution 5. So this is a vote to release the funds, the $24,003.70 from sequestration, if you will, under that resolution. So it's not absolving the resolution, it's not canceling the resolution, it's just authorizing release of the funds that are locked down.
Yeah, so essentially amending the resolution to be able to release the $24,003.70. So that's my motion.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Okay, so. One dissenting. Any further comments, or questions on that before we move on? Facility usage fee. On this,
Excuse me, Chair.
yes.
Crane 10, 11C. The contracts
Oh,
from the
okay, I'm
vendor.
sorry. Right over there. The Crane 10 refurbishment project with, the 3 contractors. Did everybody get a chance to look over those? Any comments about it?
Mrs. Bach, do you have any comments?
No, I think the contractors all accepted the changes that I proposed. And so I have nothing but to recommend approval. And there's nothing in the contracts that gave me any pause, not the final versions you have for voting.
Okay. So, let me clarify something. So we just need a board on this.
You need a motion to approve, and you can do it as one motion unless there's any commissioners that are opposed to, one of the 3, but you can you need a motion to approve all of the contracts and authorize the chair to sign.
Okay. All right, we have a motion to approve the listed documents.
I make a motion to approve the 3 contractors, giving the chairman authority to sign.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Thanks, guys. This is gonna be an exciting project. It's a long time in the making, and yeah, appreciate everybody's support.
What is the estimated completion? I'm not gonna hold you to it.
We were given 18 months.
Yeah, I think we've gotten that, thinking a year, but it all depends on lead time of the equipment. They can't order anything until the contract's signed. I've been begging them to pre-order stuff, and they won't do it until those contracts signed. So NIDAC is gonna be the
First person I called.
Yep. Yeah, he texted me earlier. And I said, should be done tonight.
On the 11D, as we move forward, Tammy, would you like to comment on that one before we get into it?
Well, yes, I would. Thank you. Just where we are. So I know that, I sent all the commissioners, and Ted, of course, saw the first version of the letter, the draft that I sent. And then Ted's proposed changes to me were, and that's what you have before you tonight. Number one, not to pay the 3% to OPA, but to retain that as a set off for the insurance. But to go back to year 7 of the agreement, October 2024, and the monies that the operator has paid for property insurance, to use those funds to offset or use the facility use fees collected, pardon me, I said it opposite, to offset the insurance that's paid. But then it also proposed going into the future prospectively, as long as it takes basically to recoup their costs for these. So in other words, not paying the percentage of the facility use fee unless it exceeds what is paid for insurance, going back to year 7 and then moving forward prospectively. Pierre, in an email he was copied on, rightfully pointed out the 2019 resolution that amended or clarified the agreement really, and was signed by Chris Ragucci, the former operator, to say that we would not go forward prospectively and do any kind of set-offs or anything like that, to basically look year to year. So in the draft letter, line behind, the 3% is excluded, and it goes back to years 7 through 9, allowing the operator to retain what 100% of the facility use fees to use as an offset for insurances that have been paid up through 2026. But then going forward, we would have to look at each year going forward. And so I know that Ted responded to me in an email. He can certainly speak for himself tonight if I've characterized it properly, but that's how I think it is. So again, the 3% is off the table, and I had to write it in that you cannot move forward prospectively with set-offs because of the 2019 resolution.
Here, you wanna comment?
Yeah, so I mean, here's my thing. I say this a lot, I'm not a lawyer, but it's just the spirit of the agreement, what we're trying to do here. In my opinion, and I know Ragucci signed something, but the spirit of the agreement is we pay property taxes, we're reimbursed through facility use fee, right? And really, it was starting in year 7 when we started collecting those facility use fees. My opinion is that we should be made whole for paying property insurance. So if facility use fees collected do not cover property insurance, then that should roll over to the next year till we're made whole. Eventually it will catch up because facility use fees increase year over year over year, assuming we have either incremental or small growth over a time frame. I get that there was something signed. I feel like this is a fair compromise. This all comes down to money. And if you look in the maintenance report of what we're about to spend to match grant funds, thank you, FDOT, but we're about to spend a tremendous amount of money on this port. I feel like this is a fair compromise between the two parties. Like, we're giving a lot in fiscal year 27, a lot. And I feel like it's a fair compromise, and it's the spirit of the agreement, that, anything that's not if we're not made whole for property insurance on a yearly basis, that rolls over to the next year. That's where I'm at. We've avoided conflict with this group for here now for a couple of months, but I'm not trying to make conflict. That's just my opinion.
We have asked on a number of occasions to modify the contract. We have been told in no uncertain terms that the contract is what the contract is. this sounds a lot like a contract modification. Contracted, contracted, 3% is what it says it is. So why should we approve a contract modification when you, as the operator, will not agree to modify anything except what you want to modify?
I mean, I'll give them the 3%. That's fine. Like, I'm not gonna die on that. That's fine.
Have we looked at, this goes largely to the facility use fee and the insurance. Have we looked at what, we're getting 25% now, when it ultimately goes to 100%, compare it to what the operator says that the insurance costs are, $1,000 per year. I did some quick math a couple months ago, and we think that we're going to be getting this big glut of money from the facility use fee. And if in fact the insurance is full, we're not going to be getting big glut money. Even when we go to 100%, we will be getting. I didn't go to math school, not a math scientist, but just my fumbling on the back number, I came up with $3,000. That's when we go to 100%. So we're not talking about ever being able to pay for the insurance costs. So why should we give up any? If we have the chance to get 3%, then why would we?
And I just said, like, I'm not gonna argue with you. But that was my ask, and I can read your body language. I don't want to start a conflict over 3%, so that's fine. But I do think it's fair that if facility use fees don't meet the cost of insurance, it should roll over to the next year until we made whole. Because it eventually will catch up.
Yeah, $3,000 at a time.
No, well,
So I
so,
think we're taking two different things.
yeah, I think, so obviously the 3%, which is the amount that comes to OPA from remember, the bulk of the facility use fee goes into Commissioner Hill's, the maintenance fund, right? To be used for maintenance, right? That's how it gets potentially $2 billion, obviously. But I mean, obviously, the reason that the 2019 agreement was entered into was because OPA didn't want to wind up with owing $1 million or whatever that amount is, whatever, and I have done the math to, if we continue for the next 4 or 5 years at $400,000 insurance and the amount of use fees that we're getting, how much are we falling behind each year? I haven't done that math, but we didn't want to wind up with a note that says we owe 800,000, 600,000, whatever that amount is, that it builds up over the years, because it's just going to build up. And yes, once we get to 100%, yes, it may, again, assuming that the use fees are going to be above it'll go down over several years. And so what you're essentially talking about 10 years of being in debt. And from your standpoint, Ted, essentially you're moving money from one pocket to the other, right? Because essentially the facility use fees are going into the maintenance fund, which is available for you to use for maintenance, right? Which we're now taking for insurance, right? So, which is again, and I, kind of, so to me, they're both pots of money that you're going to get at the end of the day, right? But we wind up with a note that we have to pay, to pay off potentially, right? That builds up over time, and that was
A note from me, you.
no, from us to the operator, right? So if you're paying $400,000 in insurance, and we're the facility use fees that we're collecting are, 300,000, obviously this year they're $60,000-$80,000 next year. So that's going to mean that over the next 4 or 5, until we reach 100% of the use fees, that amount that we owe you is going to build up, right? And then obviously as we reach the full use fees in 3 to 4 years, then that amount's going to start to go down. Obviously, the use fees are going to be 500, 600,000 a year, if the insurance stays at 400, then obviously that amount's gonna go down, but essentially we have 10 years of where we owe a debt, but again, we're taking money that would have gone into the maintenance fund anyway and available for the operator and using it to pay the insurance, but the difference is that now OHPA owes the operator over the next 10 years, say, amount of money.
Yeah, I don't see it that way. I don't, I hear what you're saying, but it's not my intent to create some gotcha thing where
I'm not saying it's got you, I'm just saying it's
I'm just trying to be made whole through this mechanism, and I mean, we've seen that but the maintenance fund is up for interpretation.
yeah, obviously, Mr. Bill's interpretation would affect this, but essentially the money in the maintenance fund is available for the operator to use. So, to me, those are both funds. The insurance, paying off the insurance with the money that would have gone into the maintenance fund anyway. Right? So essentially, that money is not going into the maintenance fund, we're using it to pay insurance. And the difference is now that essentially OHPA owes you. Like I said, as this debt builds up, it builds up, and who knows what insurance, hopefully insurance costs will go down over time, but they may go up, right? So
Pierre, I think I'm just looking at it differently. I mean, I'm not trained like you are. I'm just thinking like, I'd like to keep these funds with insurance. Now, I'm not trying to make a note that, hey, OHPA owes me something down the road. I'm just trying to keep them siloed over here until such time that we've been made whole for our out-of-pocket insurance expenses starting in year 7. That's all I'm asking for. There's no note, there's no like, gotcha, you owe me, this money.
We have to list it as a liability. If we are paying the money to you, it's a liability on our books.
right, we would owe, the depends how, again, we could negotiate up to how how it's due or whatever, but essentially it's a payable for us, right? We owe you. If we collect $60,000 in maintenance if the fees are $60,000 this year, coming out of this year, we owe you $240,000. Right? Going into next year. And so next year we collect $200,000. Now, I mean, it is a liability, right? It has to be yes, it will show up as a liability on our.
Okay, that's right. But in real world, yes, it shows a lot. That's yeah.
And
Also,
ultimately,
what's the money?
and ultimately, when
Like
we get
accounting is not, I'm a finance major, so I kind of agree with.
And ultimately, even when we get to 100%, the difference between, and you're basing it on the numbers now, but the difference between, that fund, what we'll be getting from that, and what you're claiming for insurance costs right now is a de minimis amount. So we're building up over $200,000 a year. And then on the back end, when it is at 100%, we're paying off, have the ability to pay off, be generous, $5,000. So we'll be looking at close to $1 million debt that we're paying off at $5,000.
No, I think it'll be more than that. So you're only referring to the 3%, right? So the total,
Right.
the total use fees when it gets to 100% will be somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. It won't be
Right, that's what I'm saying. It'll be a 1-to-1. But if we do it just on a year snapshot, I don't think that's fair to us. Because those years where facility use fees didn't cover property insurance, that's money out of my pocket that I had to pay for your property insurance that I'm not getting reimbursed for. Does that make sense? That's the crux of this.
That is the crux of it. That's the way it's set up. No doubt about it. So.
I hate to put a too fine a point on it, but as we've been told, the agreement is what the agreement is.
And Commissioner Moore, I hear you. I could also go down a path of like, who pays for security, right? That's not right? But I mean, we're not going, right? So that's why I'm looking for a compromise here. But I understand if you don't want to. We're not always going to agree in this room. That's my stance.
I think what we're saying here is we all know that we're in a bad situation. And I see it as moving forward. And I think we need to keep this momentum up. Yeah, is it gonna take a hit on both sides? Absolutely. But let's look at it front and center. Uh, we really don't have a choice. I mean, if you want to really get down to the brass tacks, you know what? We have to work this out. We don't have no choice. We can't take our ball and bat and go home. It's got to be worked out. So whatever might be bad for you today might be bad, good for you tomorrow. So let's continue to work together. And I'm sure that if we do diligently, we'll get through this. And I think we'll make some good strides. We're going to have to go through a correction period. I mean, the more you look at this agreement, the worse it gets. But we can't sit here and continue to harp on it. We know what we got. So let's work with it. We're smart enough to get past this and to make something good for the Port of Fernandina. Not just going around with the, oh, woe is me. You know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. We have to make sure we do it the right way, but there's always that negotiated way. Let's work together and get through this. It's not a good time to be in. You know, I look at what we're going through now with the cargo. I can remember days, and Travis, I know you were there. We didn't have no place to put anything. Cargo was everywhere. And I've seen it at the Port of Fernandina that way, where we had it down in the shrimp yard. So will it ever come back? I don't know. I can't read the future. But you know what? I can work with it. And I think that's what we need to do as a board and as an operator. Let's move on from this, because sitting here getting our blood pressure all whacked out ain't gonna do us no good. You know, we can take this up. We can continue to talk about it and discuss it. But I think we know where we're at with it. And I think at this point, we agree to disagree. That's just where we're at. Any further comments from the commissioners before we move on with this?
I would like to reiterate that, we have asked, and I'm sure we continue to ask, if the operator would be willing to enter into a contract negotiation to include the issues that you brought up tonight. Clearly, there are things in the contract that neither side is completely happy with. So I think now would be a good time to enter into a negotiation. If the operator would be willing to. Obviously, it takes both sides. I think that not that I'm speaking for my fellow commissioners, but I think we're pretty much unanimous in our desire to negotiate the contract. And it sounds like there are things that the operator doesn't like that are in the contract, but it probably, hopefully, move him to want to negotiate the contract also.
Yeah. I know we all have our wish list, but we're dealing with reality and where we're at financially. I don't see we have a whole lot of options here.
I will say there's one more component to this, and that's the $50,000 payment. The one-time payment. You know, that is another part of these negotiations. So, or part of this, you know, kind of, so so we've got, you know, we agreed we're going to get the 3%. Do you give the $50,000 to apply towards the insurance? Remember, I will say, and obviously we're going to talk about this a little later. Remember, we have a new contract which brings in $146,000 in revenue next year. So the $50,000 becomes a lot less critical to, and it's a one-time $50,000 payment. And recognizing that obviously the insurance costs are higher, you know, $400,000. Again, back 10 years ago, the insurance cost $60,000. Today, again, $400,000. is a high cost for insurance. So I'll just, again, there is one other component of this, and that is that 50,000, right? We have the 3%, we have the $50,000, and then we have the insurance reimbursement. So I just throw that out there as the offer and components.
I'm sure that this will be on the agenda in the future, to give us time to look at different options and to.
Well, I've got to meet Tammy anyway about her fees, so I'll just put that on my agenda to see what we can come up.
I think anything we can do to keep this moving forward is gonna be a plus for everybody.
So Chair, you want that on the next agenda?
Let's put it on the next agenda and we'll see where it goes between, Ted and, Tammy. And, we'll discuss it further.
Did you hear that, Mrs. Bach?
Yes, I was just gonna say, that sounds good.
All right, so let's move on with, 12B, resolution 2026-208. The CBP facility appropriations, it's all completed.
Do you want to go over the Dropbox access?
I would love, yes, I would love.
Yeah, we do need to do that. I got it marked, so yes. Let's pause on that for a minute. This Dropbox, and I don't know if the other commissioners have had issues with it, but I've had some terrible issues with it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. So therefore I don't get the information that maybe y'all see at the same time. I know that I spoke to Rosanna about it. She had some ideas on how we could approach this. I'm at the point right now to have the guy that takes care of my computer just to take it all out. And we're gonna have to do something else. So Rosanna, would you like to go over the issues or talk to me about?
Thank you. A question was asked if an enterprise account can be shared with all 5 of the board members, and I researched that. Right now, we are paying Dropbox $120 annually for just one person, and that's me because I'm the custodian of records. So with more than one person user, it'll be $180 annually per user. And I question if I allow the board members to access the Dropbox, would that violate the Sunshine Law in any way? Because I have email filed in there from different commissioners and information about the commissioners in there. And if I allow the board members to get in my Dropbox, that would kind of, I will have no control of the files.
And you'd have to share one password.
No, they will have their own password, but everybody can add, yes, $180 per user.
Per user. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
You can make it view only.
No, you will have as much access as I do.
So we're talking $1,200.
Rosanna, from my point of view, I have the same concerns. I don't think rate, just at first glance, it's a sunshine law violation, but it just depends on how commissioners used it, and really just it looking to be like there could be sunshine law violations is enough to say, yeah, if you're using Dropbox for storing emails and things like that, that might be an issue.
We probably, each of us as commissioners probably wouldn't use it inappropriately. It's the perception that it could be used inappropriately. I could create a scenario where, if I want to get a message to my other commissioners and not have it publicly available, I could just drop a note in the Dropbox for all the other commissioners to see. And I feel very strongly on this when would it be up.
That would still be public record.
That would still be
I mean,
public
everything in the
record,
Dropbox is still gonna be.
but it's still offline communications that have
Yeah.
to. Yeah, we can't send emails to each other, for the same reason.
So at least with one user, and that's me, I can control what files I share.
I was just fixing to ask, is there any way that you could be the centralized communicator of it? And when you get something in the Dropbox, then you could distribute it to rather than getting it from Travis or anybody that just wants to send it to the Dropbox.
Yes, and that's how I do with the Dropbox. I get it
So
from,
he sends it to you and then you distribute it out.
I think that's the safer way. You distribute it, or we request it from you and you send us what we need. But I think we're making a bigger issue. Throwing money at something that's not necessary.
and that was my concern.
Do the same thing.
As I understand it, it's the size of Dropbox, or the number of items that we can keep that have been Dropbox to us.
And that's what was one of the issues that was brought to me, that your Dropbox is filling up. So,
Does it have to be,
hmm,
I'm terrible with using email and every other electronic access tool as my storage device. But that's not really what Dropbox is supposed to be. That's why relatively speaking, that's why the size of the Dropbox is so small. You're not supposed to keep, when you get something into the Dropbox, you're supposed to download it to your computer and then delete the file Dropbox. That way the Dropbox never gets full. It's all available for whatever documents you use to send you. The problem is, my problem was I was using it as a storage device. When she had shared 3 of the voluminous OHPA folders with me, all of a sudden I didn't have any room for something that I really needed, because it was all clogged up with stuff she had sent for my own recording. I didn't download appropriately to my computer.
and I spoke with you, Commissioner Taylor, and you did the same thing, correct? You just downloaded the files that I shared and then just deleted it in your Dropbox access to make more room.
Now I would open it in what you, like when you
Mhm.
would get in there, I would open it, and just look, but I never downloaded it to my
Oh, okay.
Dropbox.
Have you ever, could you just limit the folder share? Because obviously you guys do the free copy, which means you get one view, whatever, whatever, whatever the free.
And it's free, yeah.
Well, but limiting the folder you share, right? Because the good thing about Dropbox is keeping stuff in, for me, I use Dropbox a lot, okay, but for my personal and your stuff. Obviously it's a great place to, because it's backed up and everything. And when somebody changes it, obviously it shows up in your Dropbox, it's changed also, but limiting the number of folders that you're sharing. In other words, you don't need to share everything, all the archive or whatever, but only you shouldn't, this week's agenda and, kind of not, the last 50 meetings or whatever, just, the most recent, you can keep it all in your Dropbox. But obviously these are the folders and only a limited amount of information you put in there that stays below their limit. So you don't have those issues. Because they shouldn't be downloading, again, unless it's something you want to keep permanently on your records, again, that's the way we manage it, with the free version is we just take information out of there that we don't need to share it for because it's too old or, we're done with that. Move on, move that back to permanent storage. The stuff that we're sharing across the 3 accounts is only what we need to share.
Right, and sometimes though the request is for huge files to be shared.
Yeah,
My easy fix was to delete the 140 file that you sent.
yeah, obviously,
Got it
also
2 years ago.
well, 2 gigs is a lot of information. 2 gigs is, library cover, so.
Yeah. It's a great tool. Question is, in our financial situation, doesn't make sense to pay $180 for effectively increased storage. Per commissioner.
So I'll show you how to do it. There's three little dots at the top, click those three little dots. It says manage access at the bottom. There's red letters that say remove from my Dropbox. Just click that. It'll stay shared with other members, re-add it later. You just don't have access, just remove it. You won't be able to delete. That's three little dots.
Or if it's something that, you think you're gonna need, and like, she shared a grant fund folder with me. And, I felt that I would need to access that in future years, so I just downloaded it to my computer. That way I have it
Because it's public records and
from my drop.
Further discussion.
I just wanted to address the issues, so those were my concerns.
Let's go ahead and move on down to be the resolution for United States CBP. I think that was on there just as information.
And Mrs. Buckle
That's all.
will
Did she
explain.
have anything she needed to discuss on it?
Just to introduce it, so everybody's on the same page, including the public. If you remember, the CBP grant agreement with the state was approved by the OHPA Commission at the last meeting, right, Rosanna?
Correct.
Yes, in June. And they needed an actual resolution that was required. And so we had to have a resolution to them before the end of June, the end of their fiscal year, in order to keep the grant processing. So we went ahead, and because the grant agreement was approved, we put the resolution together and had it signed. And my advice was to put it on this agenda so that if there are any objections, it could be undone. I wouldn't recommend it because the grant is going forward. But it's there in case there are any objections, questions from the public, etc.
Okay.
This was the appropriation. Sorry. This was the appropriation that's supposed to have no match, but FDOT changed it to a match of 94.50. That's why the agreement was changed.
And the operator picked that up, so it's all explained, so won't confuse that one. We'll go ahead and move on with that one.
Okay.
The resolution, or actually C, the resolution R10 is the resolution for our support to the government representatives that boosted us and helped us and supported us in getting this money for the CBP. So all had a chance to read it.
Motion to approve the resolution 2026
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
And Mr. Chair, man,
Yeah.
real quick for ask vote, but I want to thank, of course, Representative Dean Black, Secretary Yarborough, on the resolution. Really, thank you, but also want to give a lot of credit to Davis and his team. So even with twins, new twins, he's still working hard and getting appropriations. But I also want to thank the operator, Pudding Davis, for having the lobbyists in Tallahassee and getting this done. So this is a big deal. When last year we were looking at $2 million, we came back with 350, and then this year going in and getting 937,000. I mean, it's huge. So it shows the commitment from our legislators and trying to issue it. So I just wanted to say thank you to Joe as well.
You're here.
Yeah, both Clay and Dean Black and really thanks for what all they've done. Not only the board, but for what they're doing in Nassau County. Big, big, money for the fair, that's what big. And other uses here in the county. Really good care of us.
Chairman,
Yes.
you have 1 minute on CPP, if you don't mind. So I took a deep dive back on the planning materials. And as you know, the people that sort of preceded me are gone into other places now, so I can't really call them. I guess the big question is, I looked at all the different modes you could build a CBP building in, and we honed in on this one option. So I started looking, there is a modular option on there. Did anybody ever go down that avenue of a modular option for CBP at the Port of Ferndale Beach?
I don't remember.
So I've contacted one firm that specializes in this. I also contacted Lads of Construction. They're going to take a cursory look at it because it was very much off the record. I said, hey, hypothetically, what if I had a budget of 1.889 million? And you know, the one guy said that's a layup. You know, these government buildings are very expensive modular buildings, and the most expensive modular buildings ever made. But you're talking, that's a big budget for a 1,500 square foot building. So I'm treading lightly, don't worry. But I am going to go look down the path. I have some ideas of how we can make this work. As far as sites on the port, where we could put it, sort of thing. I'm not getting ahead of myself, don't worry. Just let you know I'm going down that path because we need this option here. This is all fantastic, but you know, the site design that was picked was also estimated out, right? And there's still a big gap here. So I want to exhaust every single possibility before we go looking for even more funding, you know, to bridge the gap to call it 3 million. Does that make sense?
So if I, and I appreciate the outside the box thinking and really trying to look for ways to save here. If I remember correctly, CBP had certain requirements, right? And I don't, would this be, would a modular version fall within one of their allowable,
Yeah, that would
intervenes? I don't know.
Yes.
that would be.
What you
It's well, from what I read in the, we're gonna butcher there, it's
Ziskovich.
Yeah,
when I read it was an option, it just wasn't chosen for some reason, but it was an approved option. And I have, in my research, I've seen modular CBP facilities.
So we're having a meeting at 9 AM tomorrow with investments. And there's a lot of folks on the call. Folks here in the room will be on the call at 9 AM. And so I think we have good news to report. My request would be that we do not take away from the positive news that we have to report by unnecessarily fiddling with the plan. If we can. And I know we will need to update the estimate because it's dated, it's 2024. When we get to that phase, then we can make rational choices about how we get from where we are today to a new facility, right? Because we have to update the estimate anyway, right? It's 2 years old. So I just want to tread lightly because I think we have really positive news to report. And they typically do not receive well our requests to deviate from their requirements.
I'll let you drop.
Okay, and I think, you know, obviously the reason there's so many people on the call from US Customs is because they're gonna approve every step of the process. In other words, before we can even start construction, they're gonna want to see the preliminary plans, the specs, all that kind of stuff. So whether it be a modular or a regular building, again, that's why, you know, there's one guy for communications. I mean, that's why there's 15 CDP people on the call, because each one has their area where you have to meet their standards. And if it doesn't, then it can't move forward. So So no matter what we choose, it has to meet the specs.
I do totally agree with you. They don't take unexpected news very well. So this is your committee. You take it.
Yeah, the rest is to update on progress to provide, just positive news. We're going to summarize what we have from Ziskovich. Obviously, that needs to be updated and then to give some next steps. And that's where I would hope that, Ted, you could give us a sense of, when we could expect to update that, OHPA has already funded through FDOT the Ziskovich analysis. So it's the next step for us to put it out for design build. Anyone you take a 2-year-old plan to or preliminary design to is going to want to see an update.
All I'm saying is I would definitely not tomorrow. It's not the right time or place. I agree. But like, I don't know why we wouldn't look. It could be done under the current budget. That's a huge time event.
We can motor that way, but we still have to keep stability with them. Because we're still trying to overcome that 4 years of crickets.
Yes, sir. Okay.
All right. Without any further ado, Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, so we're just kicking off. So I didn't send this to you ahead of time because really this is just a this is just the first preliminary pass of the budget. So obviously what I need everyone to think about as we move forward here. So this is kicking off the budget process. So we need obviously to prepare the budget for 26, 27. So I prepared a rough draft of it. Obviously, I'm sure we're going to discuss, salaries, and, and obviously we have the relativity contract, okay, which brings in a significant amount of revenue. Are we going to include that money in our budget, or we're going to put that money aside to reserve it for other purposes? Okay. So again, this is just a kickoff. What I need is your feedback. We need to discuss at the next meetings. Again, are we going to discuss salaries going forward? Are we going to discuss the Florida Ports Council dues? Obviously the relativity money. What do we want to do with that? And that's what you guys need. I need the commissioners to think about, come back with options, whatever. Do we include it in this budget? Do we not? Do we set the money aside specifically? So again, there's I don't need any comments tonight. I just we'll start that discussion. Obviously, we need to be on a path where at the last meeting in September, before the start of the fiscal year on October 1st, we need an approved budget. So this is just the first kickoff. Again, basically the budget is essentially a copy of last year. Rosanna did give me some office expenses that I did change a little bit. You'll see most of the ones with stars are the ones that we've kind of already kind of have some input on. The increase in the quarterly fee, I expect to be somewhere around 3.5% with inflation, but again, that's all to be decided coming up in in the next few months. So that's it. That's just kicking it off and just to give you, gather your thoughts. If you want to send me some thoughts, if you want to change anything, or again, for the next meeting, we'll start formal discussions and do we want to make changes and what changes, et cetera. So
Just for my fellow commissioners and anybody else who wants to. I would caution against including the full total of the relativity contract in port operations, day-to-day operations. I think we need to really look at that money, how we spend it. It's a 40-month contract. It's not a forever thing like the port operating agreement. It does have a sunset date. What I don't want to get us into is a situation like like with the COVID money. Where we get used to spending at a certain level. Now, all of a sudden, the COVID money's gone. And we go. A dollar. And how do we move forward? Now we have to make hard decisions. Because we were living on it. We need to come up, each individual commissioner, obviously collectively, and we need to come up with a spend plan. How we're going to allocate it, what specifically does it for, how we're gonna move beyond the 4 months if that contract does end at hopefully it'll continue, but if it doesn't, we have to maximize that money so it does OHPA as a whole. The best with we try to decrease our lines of business and get off of having a single asset that we're trying to pay for all.
Any other comment? Okay. Move on to the office manager report.
My report is attached to the meeting packet, and Chair, if I may, just a couple of updates. We need RFPs for the active, just got active grants. Those are the earmark, the CBP on port, and automatic gates. FDOT needs bid tabulations for those projects before they will award us the notice to proceed with those grants. So we need to talk about RFPs. And FDOT requested port information on Kraken, and Mr. Zitrar entered that information. And thank you. Thank you for your help. And that's it.
Oh, and I replied back to their ask today.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're going to send in the required information?
Well, no, they asked me about one of the grant, yeah, so that's the clarification questions. I just wanted to know a lot of it today, but, I mean, so you're saying RVs, one of them for CBP, one of them for the security grant, right?
Correct.
So CBP,
Security.
there'll obviously be a minute before we do the security gates. I guess we can go ahead and get that going, right? All right, I'll give Travis we'll be going.
And that will be on the next agenda. Discuss.
Rosanna, if you will, go ahead and add that to the next meeting, and that way we'll stay on top of it and follow it.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care of it. Commissioners, starting with Mr. Cole, any updates?
Nothing like that.
Right. Okay. Mr. Wolf?
We have the FSTED meeting coming up, July 26th and 27th. During that cycle, to stand up and justify our priority grant applications, the 2 and 5. So, given the few that provide me people with return on investment, specifics that I will address. I'll get up there just shooting off the cuff, which I can do, but not always the best and most productive of anybody's done it.
You just get me something soon you can, that way I can work on it as far advanced as possible.
Yeah. So I've got a good lay of the grant application this year. But some more flavor and specific. ROI is the big buzzword at FDOT and FSTED. So whenever you can talk about ROI, that's happening. Rosanna, this is going to be on our agenda, the budget.
This, yes, the next, until we, yeah.
discussions, inputs, whatever.
And, that's all I.
So this week we received, a tax exemption denial letter from Kevin Willie's office. And, it states that if we have questions concerning the information, we have to call and speak with him directly. I think we should take action on that pretty quickly because there are very strict timelines for appealing, and each year is a separate, state legal issue that has to be separately filed. Defendant, I asked, Tammy about it. And, she said she was looking for an update, from our council, but I was gonna suggest that the board give authorization for Tammy and Derek Bruce, who've got sure to call Kevin Lilly. I'm happy to join that call. Unless another commissioner wanted to join.
I have no objection. Any other objection from any of the other commissioners?
I would encourage all the commissioners to talk to Mr. Link at some point. He has reviewed that numerous times. He's got an open door. So I've been talking with Davey about it, but to Commissioner Hill's point, yes, we receive denial, we've got to file a petition. And we got caught up before with that issue
Yeah.
years ago, and so that is something we need to do with a timely manner.
And then I had, a couple other items. The TPO meeting is canceled tomorrow. The next meeting is in August. And, June 12th, I met with the City of Ferndale Beach Harbor Master Plan team. She included Glenn Ackermoff and I think it was Dave Collins from Moffett Nichols and several other, engineers and planning professionals who are consulting for the waterfront project. And they're meeting with all the property owners along Front Street. The Sims property is really the only one that has a clear action plan. And then the city is prepared to demolish Brett's, and I think they've received bids. They've selected a contractor to go ahead and demolish the building there. And so they're just trying to get a sense of where each property owner is in terms of the land. Are they gonna do something with it? Do they just gonna sit on it? Because in order to do some sort of shore stabilization, they really need to understand like what are the intended uses. People wanting the docks out there, they want boat storage, what do they want? And so I said, I'm here just gathering information. I'm 1.5, can't really give you anything specific, but I can point you to some information. So I shared with them. Board had passed a resolution to apply for a grant to do highest and best use analysis. Also pointed us to our certificate of master plan, which says that we are going to be a catalyst to assist in Front Street development, and to revitalize the Front Street corridor. So I shared with them that language, and then I also shared with them that the operator occasionally uses that site for staging or turnaround for trucks. But other than that, they're really just looking for us to engage with them in the process. I did also share our flooding concerns, support, and also highlight for them, kind of gaping hole in the whole thing is the rail line. So, as long as there's a low point of ingress and egress for all that seawater, you can't build a wall to keep it out. So it was a good meeting, and so that's all I have to report. If you have questions about that, Glenn Ackermoff and City of Virginia Beach is a great point of contact. He's very responsive. And I've also would like to just highlight for you all in Fernandina, the resurfacing of A1A is they're engaging in public outreach for the roundabout at Main Beach, and then the resurfacing of A1A from South Fletcher all the way to Main Street. So if you have interest in that, the opportunities to engage. I mean, we're all accustomed to discussing transportation issues, and so it's important to engage on those points and offer opinions just as members of the public. If you're interested, tomorrow night there's a meeting. I have to check the time on the agendas for the FDOT projects. I'm working with it. Sorry.
Mr.
Mr. Chair.
President, well,
Mr. Mayor, and the Vice President of the chamber.
congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I am here at dawn.
In West Virginia, we're getting a really good deal.
Yeah.
Sales team here. It's possible.
Let me go back to your conversation. Tammy still on?
Mrs. Bach, are you still on?
Yep, yes.
Do we need any kind of a motion to have Commissioner Hill and the attorneys go ahead with yourself, and make sure that we, have this, documentation, that's required for our taxing, property taxing.
Yes, because it authorizes us to take that action on behalf of OPA.
Okay. I need a motion to allow the attorney go ahead and proceed with this.
Make a motion for, Ms. Bach and I guess Ms. Hill, or Commissioner Hill, sorry.
It's really Derek Bruce to deal with.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Make a
I'm just running the call.
We have a second from, Commissioner Moore. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
I've got a couple alibis. Here we go. So,
No, go ahead. I was just gonna make sure that she got that information.
just to Commissioner, Hill's point, we did put in that, USDA, Rural Business Development Grant. $30,000 for a funds project. 30th of June, see how that goes. I'm not terribly confident, but I'm not confident either. I think we did a good job on it. But first time you apply for a grant, so a little bit shaky. Also, Mr. Ackerman, since we have property on Front Street to include the port, also the Front Street property, perhaps they could, city, Mr. Ackerman, or one of the other offices could, come down and, brief the Open Commission on the.
They made that,
bounds of-
they made that offer.
Oh, okay, yes, that'd be great.
So I think we discussed doing that in August, but I'm going to confirm the date. I'll follow up with them.
I had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Y'all are local here, I'm not, what's the seafood place right on the south side of the port, right there, that was for sale?
Shrimp place,
Yeah,
Beacon Seafood?
It was for sale, then it was off the market. Anybody have any inside information what's going on with that? Just is there our stuff or?
It was, the ask price was 6.2 million.
Brief.
Ms. Beach, right?
Yeah, that's the blue.
Yeah.
Between us and
Right, yeah.
For the private. But, yeah. I don't know why it's off the market. 6.2 seemed like a pretty high price. They can get 6.2.
when I was out there on Monday, I did hear, some talk that it had sold. So I haven't seen any signs of it yet, but that was the talk.
But cross your fingers, they're a good neighbor.
So, anyway,
I actually asked if they would they might be interested in just selling they've got the blue warehouse, and then they've got the other facility with that's immediately adjacent.
that's the restaurant.
Yeah, obviously 6.2 was a bit pricey. Asked if maybe they would consider selling just that immediate strip.
All right, any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I did receive confirmation that we are back on, at the PEC Center, so
Okay,
what,
we were gonna discuss that, so I'll just briefly hit it. We were told Monday that we couldn't have it. But I understand today that they did make a phone call back and said that we're back on. So what we'll do is we'll schedule the meeting for 8/12. And then we'll look at that based on what we have pending. We'll look at 8/26 and make a decision on that one.
so we are back at the PEC,
Back at the back,
August 12th.
8/12. Without any further ado,